Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Jack. I guess this is the fourth one, which is kind of wild. One thing to note, anyone who's watching, please feel free to ask some questions. We'll take those at the end. But before we get started, I do want to thank OmniFlix Media and Citizen Cosmos for helping me host this. Cicely and the team over at OmniFlix do a great job of helping me produce this, and I couldn't do it without them. So thank you guys. And the Citizen Cosmos guys help with post-production. So thank you very much. Well, today I'm extremely excited to welcome Jelena Introduction from, I screwed that up. I said I wasn't going to, but I did.
Yeah.
From Informal Systems, who's been working in the Cosmos now for a little while and is leading go-to-market for IBC. And I think you'll be seeing a lot more of her here soon. And I wanted to give her a chance to talk a little bit about the work that she's doing and what brought her to the Cosmos. So Jelena, welcome, and thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for having me. This is such a great setup, and I love the intro music. Wow, that was fun.
Inspirational.
Yeah.
So Jelena, do you want to tell me a little bit about your background and what brought you to the Cosmos?
Yeah, not sure exactly where to begin. I guess most recently I was working on the Cello project for a few months, which was super exciting. I was there working on the experience team. They actually ran an incentivized test net similar to what Cosmos did for the hub. So kind of worked on that. And then before that, I was at Dfinity working as a community manager. So I've always been very interested in working with layer one projects, and I've known about Cosmos for like a long time. And have been inspired by it ever since I learned about it. So I guess you could say this was meant to be. But I guess the story goes much further back than that, but as a little kind of introduction to my background.
Yeah, I think that it's funny, Cello and the Dfinity communities are folks that I have worked with a lot on and off over the years, and there's a number of ex-Dfinity folks in Cosmos, which is pretty cool. That whole idea of a world computer and trying to shift to this new paradigm of IT, I think is really, really compelling for a lot of people. And I think the amount of investment and interest that's gone into the wide variety of these platforms really shows that.
Yeah. I think Cosmos has a similarly compelling narrative. While we were at Dfinity, we were seeing so many sort of like breaking news within, like, let's say the mainstream tech world, massive cyber attacks, services getting deplatformed from AWS, other sort of centralized cloud service providers. It's exciting to work in such a space where you're constantly validated that you're doing the right thing, because the outside world is like going in a direction that's like not great, and we're trying to do something that is hopefully an antidote to that and will help sort of weather the consequences in the future. And that's actually kind of another thing. I spoke about this recently, but I've always been interested in like systems in transition, systems in flux, what happens in the midpoint. Like in university, I studied a lot about like communism and transitions to capitalism and, from a political economic perspective. And then here we are like trying to build a new reality in this moment of transition. So yeah, it's exciting.
I think that's interesting that you bring up the political stuff, and this is a bit of a diversion, but it's totally allowed. Like what we are doing is kind of revolutionary in a lot of ways. We're like insurgents against this traditional finance system, and we're trying to build a new system outside of that and move people into it. And, I think that the history of some of those revolutionary movements, how they, rose and fell and like the life cycle there, it has a lot to teach us as cryptocurrency folks, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think also, sorry. Yeah.
No, just very quickly, I just like one thing I like to kind of remind myself and like, just like the community I operate within is I think we like to think that the arc of history bends toward justice and things will get better. But realistically, we've seen time and time again when that doesn't happen, right? So sorry, just to your point, like this transformation period and this disruption, we have to make sure that it will be just and it will be better than what we currently have, but it's not always certain. So.
Totally. And those, I think that all of those proof points that we see in the media and the things that point us towards the fact that this is the right thing to be building right now really help weather those bear markets.
Yeah,
because, man, they're rough.
Yeah, fuck. I try not. Oh, oops. I shouldn't swear. I try.
You can swear. That's fine.
I try not to. Yeah, I try not to get too like fixated on like the troughs and the booms and the busts. Because it can get a bit. It's not great for mental health, but
No.
to put it simply. But yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's great to be validated, but we should also, confirmation bias is a thing. So we should also try to get outside of ourselves whenever we can to make sure, is this actually something people will care about and use and be empowered by and even emancipated? Like, that's kind of a strong word, but we'll see.
Yeah, totally. So, just pivoting a little bit to your day job, I think that there's a lot of folks in the Atom community and the Cosmos community who have seen a lot of these other projects. They're very familiar with, IBC from a wide variety of folks, but I think the work that Informal does tends to tilt towards the technical and a little bit of academic. And, I think that Informal, especially these days, is getting a lot more involved and a lot more out front in the ecosystem. So do you want to talk to me a little bit about the Informal organization and how they contribute to Cosmos? Because there's a lot of stuff that I think people aren't aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for context, Informal sort of spun out within the ecosystem, led by Ethan Buckman and also the chief, who's our CEO, and also the chief scientist, Zlatko Milosevic, and also Ariane Fleming, who's the chief operating officer, and really a bunch of other folks that were already.
Ariane is amazing. She is an unsung hero of the Cosmos.
Truly. I mean, I don't know if she's watching right now, but wow. So she's absolutely incredible. And I've learned so much from her already. And we'll continue to learn a lot. And so it's a lot of the people within Informal were already within the Cosmos ecosystem from the very beginning, obviously including Ethan, but also, many others. So Informal, I think what like the whole idea was to have sort of, let's say autonomy and freedom to kind of experiment in other sort of software and research areas that a lot of folks were passionate about, including development in Rust, including formal verification, with the ultimate mission of building verifiable distributed systems. I think we can see like the risks to kind of insecure systems, going back to what's currently happening with kind of massive outages and cyber attacks. So currently, kind of more tangibly, some exciting developments that have happened. So yesterday, we actually completed the relayer in Rust. So that the kind of V1 of that. Yeah, I know you're excited because you were.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because it's obviously Jack, was the maintainer of the Go relayer for a very long time. So now we have, two sort of relayers, and it'll be exciting to kind of test them out, iterate on them, and obviously put them in the hands of real users. So that was built in Rust. We'll have a tweet thread on that later today. So that's exciting, with some really nice documentation. But further to that, the team has been building out Tendermint and Rust for over a year now. So that's another thing. And then just continuing to use formal verification methods to test for correctness. So we did an audit of IBC a couple months ago. That's public. So really just kind of being like at the very core of all of this technology and making sure that it's, correct and runs well and all of these things. And we're also structured as a cooperative. So we're also iterating on human governance. Yeah.
That's a really fun part of Informal, I think. I do want to dig into the formal verification stuff a little bit because that's a type of coding and a type of work that really doesn't get performed in a lot of systems. And what it does is it establishes the correctness based on a design of a given distributed system. And you're actually able to use these formal verification models that you build to test the real world implementations of the software against it. And, I think it can seem kind of out there in like a really kind of esoteric topic a lot of times, which is I think why a lot of people discount it. But if you really want to build reliable distributed systems that are resilient against a wide variety of attacks, having these types of formal models and working through the different holes in it is really the only way to do it. And I think one of the things that really told me about the power of formal verification is there's this video of these Bell helicopters that they built, and one helicopter was designed by a team that didn't use formal verification, and the other one was designed by a team that did. And they had hackers trying to take the helicopters down. And the other, like the one that wasn't designed with formal verification, didn't get off the ground. And the one that had formal verification was able to fly and actually withstand the failure of a number of key systems and continue to operate. And, that's the type of like military grade resilience that we need out of these distributed systems. And Informal are the folks that are really providing that. So, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny you mention aircrafts because I think, a couple months ago, we were talking, or not, I was observing, but some of our researchers were talking about, how hard it is, I guess, to verify something like a operating system for like an aircraft versus, like a protocol like IBC. Anyways, yes, these techniques are obviously not just for blockchains. I mean, yeah, as you said, it's any distributed system, including like hardware that, keeps people safe or transports them from point A to point B. But I should also mention, I would be remiss, and I think people would be mad if I didn't mention Apalache. So Apalache is a model checker as well that was built within Informal by some of the core researchers. So that's just another kind of way to verify specifications, run in TLA plus, and kind of make sure that and that there's the GitHub link. So yeah, that's another formal verification tool. So we're also keen to build out these tools for people, so it's more accessible, and it's obviously open source and things like this. So that's also very exciting.
Yeah, and this is some super nerdy shit, but Leslie Lamport, who's kind of been doing a lot of that work, has worked closely with Informal Systems, and he's a legend. One other thing that you mentioned about Informal that I do think is interesting, especially with a lot of this talk within blockchain about decentralization and very few people actually doing it. Can you tell me a little bit more about the cooperative business model that Informal has and how that enforces decentralization at the corporate level?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that, Ariane and Ethan worked so hard to kind of establish at the very beginning. This was something I wasn't involved with. I joined Informal after it was officially incorporated, but we've been iterating on the model ever since. So effectively, we are a members cooperative. It is a simulated cooperative because to be kind of a formal cooperative within Canadian corporate governance laws, it's actually quite complicated and expensive and just challenging. So, I mean, potentially we'll get there in the future, but for now it's a simulated cooperative. So what does that mean? So every member employee, after being with the company for 9 months, has one voting share. Why 9 months? I actually learned this a few months ago. It's the kind of gestation period for like a fetus. So it's kind of like arbitrary, right? But it kind of shows that, you kind of join the team, you spend 9 months, you become, you kind of become integrated into the culture. You really, join the team, you become part of the team, and then, you have this like voting share to kind of participate in different governance processes. So I actually am not a member employee yet, but that'll happen in a month. So that's kind of the core idea of the cooperative for now. But again, we're iterating on it over time. And we have a blog post about this on our website, actually. So maybe we can link it for people interested.
That's, it's really cool. I think that's one of the things that I've really admired most about the Cosmos team and the original founding ethos is you see a lot of places where they talk decentralization in the streets, but it's actually centralized in the sheets. And, Cosmos is very different than that. Everyone is like really walks the walk.
Yeah.
So, that's a great introduction about Informal. In what are you specifically doing at Informal? It's IBC go-to-market. Tell me a little bit about that role.
Yeah, so this is something that I guess came up fairly recently, right? And I've been chatting with yourself and Zachy and other sort of kind of leaders within the Cosmos ecosystem to get ramped up. But IBC and Hub go-to-market is obviously a huge undertaking, right? It involves so many entities. It's, as you mentioned, Cosmos is very decentralized from a development perspective. So what that means is coordination and alignment on priorities can sometimes be a challenge, right? So we've seen a need over the past few months to sort of project manage these efforts and make sure we're all sort of aligned on the work we're supposed to be doing. And we've made a decision quite consciously to actually tie the Hub go-to-market with the go-to-market of IBC, which is obviously coming February 18th after the latest Stargate upgrade. So yeah, it's very exciting. Oh, you also forgot to mention the big news for today, Jack. All-time high.
Oh, $10 Atoms, all-time high, you guys.
But yeah, so obviously, we're seeing a lot of interest in Atom, and there's just going to be kind of more utility for Atom going forward. Obviously, it served an amazing, a purpose for a while as a governance token, and so on. But we're going to kind of improve that with, there's the Atom 2021 initiative, there's utilities coming to the Hub, there's bridges, there's, obviously IBC. I'm personally very excited about the concept of a solo machine client. We could talk a little bit about that if you want, but ultimately the point of go-to-market is to get the core contributors to the Hub, and connect them to the entities that are doing the development and doing the work and having these touch points. Something that I care about a lot is kind of market validation and talking to users constantly. So is this useful? How can it be improved? How can we help? How can we make sure that, your experience in the interchain is like a pleasant one? So yeah.
Totally. When you're talking about users, that really resonates with me. And I think that that's been something that's differentiated us as an ecosystem is we have gotten things out in front of users and continued to iterate. And, people talk about that in software all the time, but what they don't talk about is how hard it is to actually do in practice. The pressures are not to do that. So yeah. So you're talking about IBC, the Hub being central to IBC go-to-market, and I've seen a lot more activity over on that Gaia repo recently. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you're organizing this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Gaia repo, I think, for the past little bit, kind of has been not a central focus within like Cosmos development, right? I think a lot of the action and the fun, sexy stuff is in, the SDK and Tendermint and so on. And Gaia, we kind of want to kind of refocus, to Gaia and lay out the roadmap. And so what we've done with, Ethan and also Shahan, who recently joined Interchain GmbH as the Gaia tech lead, is to put up a meta roadmap of the different phases of Gaia development, again connecting to issues, PRs, repos outside of the Gaia repo, and making sure that there is a central place where people are aware and understanding of the development of the Hub, and again, like utility coming to the Hub. And I mean, this is an iterative process. Nothing is like necessarily concretized. Like Jack, to your point, you don't necessarily always have an incentive towards software development, but like in Cosmos, we are always keen to iterate and like change and with users as things change. So yeah, it's exciting to see this meta roadmap kind of laid out in this way. That's very clear and easy. I hope it's not easy to understand, but it's very clear, and you can kind of see what the progress is and what the strategic direction is. So again, we're still work to be done, but we are. Not re-centralizing efforts, but just re-coordinating everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that people have this romantic idea of decentralization where, it's decentralized and then everything's going to work. But really, if you look at the history of revolutionary movements, when they decentralize is when the point of greatest danger is, because they can tend to lose coherence. And I think what everyone in the ecosystem has recognized is that there's a need for this coordination. And Gaia is this sort of central shelling point that we've created to help build it. And I think the reason why we had not focused as much on that particular piece of software as the core piece of the ecosystem was that we really had to build everything in the white paper in order to enable the future that Gaia was built for. Yeah. And we've spent substantially the last 5 years doing that. And we just shipped the white paper with Stargate. It's going to be going live here on February 18th, which is a massive amount of work from, I think this fall, there was a joint blog post between like 7 different organizations, and it's got this big circle of pictures. And there's like 60 or 70 different people on there. And it's just, it's really remarkable how much effort has gone into this project. And like now seeing this Gaia meta roadmap with links to all of these different things from all of these different repositories and all of these different organizations, it's really, really cool. And, we've really got buy-in from everyone on it, which is awesome.
Yeah. I feel really privileged to be coming into the ecosystem. And I mean, as you said, like the grunt work and the massive labor put into all of this for the past 5 years. I mean, this is, it's very cool to be here at this point, I guess. So thank you for having me.
For sure. I'm just taking a peek here through this roadmap and thinking if there's anything fun to chat about. I do think this whole solo clients IBC thing is a really interesting topic. Do you want to intro that for people who don't know what that is and what the sort of trade-off is there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still, getting ramped up, and yourself and Zach and Ethan have been amazing mentors so far. But so from what I understand, the solo machine client will kind of be a simplified way for chains outside the ecosystem to issue assets on the hub, right? So there's this like problem, I think, that you see in other ecosystems like Ethereum, where it's really hard to upgrade an ERC20 contract, and it's like kind of risky. There's a really good post on the Coinbase blog about this with a USDC and all of
That's a wild post.
Yeah, I have to read it like 10 more times, but I've read it a couple already. And the idea, I think, with Solo Machine Client, and please, I'd love for you to talk to this as well, is to make it easier to issue assets on the hub. It's an off-chain process similar to the relayer that can sign messages as well. It's also kind of like a trusted bridge, right? So we have like the Gravity bridge, which is like a trustless bridge to Ethereum that's coming. But the Solo Machine Client is like a pared down version of that, where you don't have to rely on the whole validator set. It could be like a multi-sig. It could be just a few one trusted party that can do the token issuance. So that's, I think, very awesome.
Yeah, I think that the sort of promise of these solo machine clients is that an issuer like USDC, or, there's a number of these sort of trusted wrapped token issuers, and with more and more real assets being brought onto blockchains, the solo machine client offers a really seamless way to integrate into existing systems. If you're using a Postgres database to store a lot of metadata about this token that you're issuing, or, whatever it might be, some folks can find that hard to migrate over to these new technologies like blockchains, which is sort of the other option, is you spin up your own Tendermint chain, and it's a proof of authority chain, and you can do this. But yeah, we're looking forward to using that to help bring many, many more different types of assets into the Cosmos ecosystem. And once you've implemented that solo client for one chain, it works across the ecosystem. So in the case of USDC, if they build a system that is a solo client, they can use that to issue USDC on the hub, as well as on Kava and Thorchain and any other chain that's IBC enabled. And that's really the explosion of creativity and like experimentation that's going to happen when we bring this thing to market. And that's really, really exciting for me.
Yeah.
So audience questions. We do have a question about the cooperative model here. Aditya asks, the cooperative model is interesting. Is Informal Systems working on a model/template of the cooperative/DAO that can be used within the Cosmos broader blockchain ecosystem?
That's interesting. I think that would be fun, and it would be a lot of work, maybe a grand experiment. At the moment, the cooperative model is very much kind of within informal systems, and we are taking inspiration for it, like from more like traditional cooperatives that have member employees. I think when we talk about something like a DAO, we're talking about like funding mechanisms. I think that could be something interesting for like the governance working group within the hub to kind of consider, like how can we be more cooperative-like. I know there's a lot of interesting governance kind of ideas floating around. There's an RFP by the Interchain Foundation to kind of improve that. Currently, I don't think really Informal's kind of mandate necessarily to bring that to the Cosmos ecosystem, but I don't imagine why we wouldn't. I will say one thing. We are iterating actually on plain text tooling as well. So I forgot to mention that when talking about formal
Plain text accounting, powerful.
Yeah, Ethan's all about that. So we have something called Famous, where you can actually have like a verifiable version controlled way to sign contracts. So we actually did do the latest kind of updates to some documentation, corporate documentation using the Famous tool. There's actually a tweet on it. I don't know if we can find it quickly, but
Famous is going to be powerful. Like applying Git to legal stuff, I feel like is $1 million market. We're just waiting for somebody to go take that down.
So hopefully we can bring those tools to Cosmos and to governance and things like this.
One comment I would make about DAOs is that the Cosmos Hub has actually been a DAO for quite a while and has voted, and completed a number of projects based on governance. And last week we had on the team that's working on this marketing spend. We made those first payouts to some of the contractors we're working with recently. And, the governance functionality that Jelena is talking about is actually a really exciting way to formalize some of these more informal processes that we've had around delegating funds to a multi-sig committee and the ability for individual voters to split their votes between a number of different things and to have more complicated and different kinds of polls in governance. And, there's a lot of talk about DAOs on Ethereum, but what those DAOs are is really just multi-sigs. And what DAOs are in the Cosmos ecosystem is truly this decentralized, permissionless set of individuals who come together on the internet and build this system that can then spend money, which is, pretty cool to me.
It's pretty revolutionary. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't see any additional questions, but if folks have them, please drop them in the thing. Jelena, do you have any words for us before we wrap up here?
Not really. I think just like, thank you for having me. And like, I'm just so excited to keep meeting people within the Cosmos ecosystem. I haven't met everybody. I mean, if we were all at a conference together in person somewhere in the world, it'd be easier. So, please do feel free to reach out. I'm always keen to meet as like a newcomer. Thanks again for having me, Jack. This is such a great initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I will say, Jelena, very easy to grab a meeting with. And if you're interested in chatting with her, please reach out. Yeah. So awesome, Jelena. Thank you very much. And I just want to say thank you again to the Citizen Cosmos and OmniFlix folks for helping me put this on. And Sisla, thank you.
Great. Bye.
Bye.